Hey guys, so in my last video, where I was talking about how things have resolved for me and about how I ended up getting the things I wanted, but not until I had resolved everything, that was standing in the way. In that video, I was talking about Matt, and I said Matt's the best, and I was talking about Matt said a lot of nice things about Matt in that video, and it occurred to me after making the video, I really hope that because of, I remember, being in the state of mind where the relationship was just the only thing that could save me. And I thought, I bet people that are in that state still were like, she ended up getting the relationship that like fixed everything. And I want to be super clear about this. That was no longer something that was necessary. A relationship that would fix everything was no longer something that even existed in my mind once I started fixing everything. And Matt showing up did not turn my life into some magical fairy tale. Hopefully I've been clear about that over the last few years. In fact, a lot of other shit started going down almost immediately. Life sort of turned into a big shit show almost immediately, thanks to other things needing to be addressed. But I wanted to talk specifically about my relationship with him because I've seen comments here and there over the last few years that were like, oh, and then she found the perfect guy, and then she had the perfect relationship, or just things that made me think that my story has just served to increase the belief in this idea that there is some perfect thing waiting. I want to be so clear that this is not the case. My relationship is probably the best and most obvious proof to me of the way this law works of anything, for so many reasons, but mostly and really the most importantly for me, in the bad ways. This relationship has still been a perfect mirror of me in my imperfection. And especially since when we got together, I had some of this central theme of I'm not good enough and I need to look perfect. I had some of that worked out, like I was saying in the last video. I'll link to that below. It's really long. It's an epic video. It's my magnum opus for this channel, such as it is. But it reflected the fact that still wasn't fixed. Of course it did. And happily, as that's gotten addressed, it's improved. So basically, when I met Matt, things were a certain way. They were a perfect reflection of me, right? But then I had to deal with this issue, this central theme that I had intended to fix and that I was dedicated above all else to resolving. And with that came a lot of things that brought up a lot of shit. And, as I was in my own head and dealing with all that stuff, the relationship with Matt slowly conformed to the thing, like I gained 30 pounds at the beginning of 2021 after my dad died because I was punishing myself and because of all the other things that were unresolved, and because I needed to see that, and because I needed to weigh more, and all the stuff that goes into these manifestations. And it took a long time for the way I felt about myself, my personality. It took time for my identity to shift to match that, to sort of backslide, I guess, because I'm in this great place, then I gained 30 pounds, for a while I was just kind of like in disbelief. I still felt like my 120 pound self and all of the fake security that came with that, it was still there. Matt, nothing changed with Matt. In fact, from the very beginning, he was like, I don't care about your weight. You just have to accept that. It just doesn't bother me if you're heavier, just whatever. And that was the case. That was proven because nothing changed with Matt physically. He didn't treat me different. He didn't seem to feel different. He certainly didn't seem to be less attracted to me at the heavier weight. And it wasn't until I started to change. I got frustrated. I kept trying to deal with it the same old way that wasn't going to get me where I needed to go. I still just, I have sympathy for myself looking back, because I just couldn't do it until I could do it. You know, I couldn't let go of this idea until I had just sat there long enough and had enough experience and just said, okay, like, I have to just stop being afraid of letting go of this. You know, it took the time it took. It took a year and a half of sitting there attempting to get it the old way, attempting to apply my will and my discipline to it, all of that. And during that time, my identity started to, I started to feel like a different version of myself from the past. You know, during that time, when I realized this wasn't going to be some quick fix, when I realized I was actually going to go through the meat grinder again to solve this, I just, started feeling like shit. And a lot of other things were going on. That's the other thing. The outer reality that appeared to not be being caused by me directly, currently at the time I'm talking about, the outer events were happening to just support this whole thing. Stressful things were happening in both of our lives. Our environment was crazy. We moved, which was stressful. We had issues to deal with the house that were stressful. Matt's mom decided to move far away, which was stressful, since she already lived 200 miles away, and we needed to help her with that. And then, I think Matt had some unexpected sadness at his mom being far away. And, both of us, I wasn't the only one who gained 30 pounds. Matt also gained 30 pounds, and that started to take a toll on him. It just sort of, the whole situation just kind of shifted to reflect. And I looked around one day last year, I don't want to say like September. Matt and I were making an effort to continue to go to bed and get up at the same time, just so we could be on a similar schedule, so we could spend time together. But we are not on the same clock. And at some point last summer, in like maybe August, I just said, listen, I have to get up early. Like, this is just a part of me. I hate waking up at 10 a.m. I hate it. I get nothing done at work. I get there, by the time I get there and get settled in, it's like I'm already in the place in the day where I'm thinking about leaving. So I'm just getting nothing done at work. And, it's like I'm awake during all of the hours where I want to eat garbage and just like hang out, and I've got to start getting up early. And so that was kind of like the final thing that shifted our relationship. And I looked around, and like September last year, I looked around and I said, wow, I've essentially recreated from this perspective, from this identity where I don't feel good about myself. I feel unattractive. I feel heavy. I feel like that I have this problem. This central theme problem is now, again, on my mind all day, every day. It's, I recognized my mentality, and I looked around and I said, wow, I've created the exact same life that I had the last time I was in, I felt like this, which I weighed a lot more last time. Thankfully, I didn't, that wasn't necessary. Thank God. Thank all of the work that I've done before that caused going back to like 200 pounds to not be a necessary part of this. But I looked around and I was just like, man, okay, I'm in this secure relationship. And we are really distant right now. We're not even like awake at the same time. When I'm home, he's at work. It's kind of like I'm back in this roommate situation that I had with my ex, where I'm just sort of like in this problem in my head, and we are just sort of leading separate lives. And this looks essentially nothing like it did in the beginning, when it was just like all romance all the time, and just I don't know. I don't think the details are really important. But I just looked around and I said, well, the system works. Like, here is another perfect example of this. I've already been here. I moved out of this mentality, and now I've moved back into it. And here is the proof that the outer will just conform. whether it, if it's directly your relationship with a person devolves or changes or whatever, if you have chosen a partner from a new, better mentality, you probably won't experience the same lows that you did before. And we didn't. That was also proof, that was also proof of concept here. Because I had created this relationship with this person from a much, much better mentality, the relationship was still healthy. But I just looked around and said, we're living like roommates, and I did this. Like, this is because of me. And I would say to Matt, he'd be having like his own problem or whatever, his own thing, and I'd be like, yeah, I know, like that's your reasoning, but this is coming from me. I know it's coming from me. And he's like, no, I have my own life. I have my own personality. I have my own problems. So it's interesting, how it just magically and perfectly comes together. And what's hopeful about it, and when I was troubled by this, because I certainly was, I was like, God, I don't want to be back in that relationship. What if I've permanently changed this? What if the fact that I've been in this mental state for the last year has permanently removed the magic of my relationship? Or what if it's, basically I'd have moments of fear where I was like, is this going to be this way forever now? Even if, or when I get through this, at the time, I was really afraid I was just stuck there forever in purgatory. Because I kept telling myself, stop thinking about this. Stop thinking about how the relationship is different. My mind would go there and dwell there, like all the time, thinking about how it was different. I just kind of sit there like with the furrowed brow, just going, God, how do I fix this? What do I do? Being mad that I, had influenced that to happen. And the only comfort I had was, hey, do you really believe that, put your money where your mouth is? Like, if you change and you get through this and you get back to where you were in the beginning when you met Matt, if you get back to that, or, better yet, if you're even in a better place than you were then, of course, the world must conform to reflect that. And it was hard given, what he was going through and where he was mentally, to imagine that he could just emerge from that. I had a lot of not judgmental thoughts about him, but judgments. I had a lot of thoughts like, wow, I'm not sure if this is like just how Matt is, like he's somebody who withdraws when he's in his head, and he would spend a lot of time by himself. And I just thought, maybe we used to spend a lot of time together, really like enjoying each other's company, and we just hang out together all the time. And I thought, well, maybe this is just him. Like maybe that was just like the beginning. Whatever. I had all these troubling thoughts, and I just would tell myself, it can't work that way. If I am able to get back to the place that I was in the beginning, or something like that, or something better than that, he will have to respond in some way or another. And if for whatever reason at that point we're not compatible, if he can't play his role the way he would need to in order to reflect me, then we won't be together. And that was just what I told myself to comfort myself, and that was the bottom line. I'm not so attached to any person or thing that I don't get the SP thing for a lot of reasons, but that's a big one of them. I just don't have any desire to try to force somebody into being something. So anyway, all of that to say that as things began to change, as I let go of this, slowly, I just kind of let go of this idea that I need to be in a certain physical form, and every day when I get up, I need to be focused on that and doing something about it. Earlier this year, when I started to shift my focus onto my business and doing stuff with that, I just kind of set it aside, and I just said, I haven't had any success with this, the way I'm approaching it, for the last year, and I'm tired, and honestly, I'm getting to the point where I don't care, naturally. I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, what? Who am I trying to impress here in life? What am I trying to do here? I don't care anymore. As I set that aside, things started to change between me and Matt almost immediately. Specifically, and not even directly with me. Matt started to kind of emerge from his his cave, little by little, sort of the same way I was. It was like I would have this minor shift, and then he would have this minor shift. He'd say, I think I need to like start doing some stuff. I've been kind of sitting here hoping that this would pass, and I think I need to start being active and actually doing something like, just basic life stuff, like trying to get up earlier and eating a better diet and getting exercise, just stuff like that. He started to kind of emerge. And then I was saying in this previous video, I had kind of a big breakthrough in March and then another huge one in April. And there was a corresponding thing, Matt also has like, especially the one in April, he's just really started to like come alive again right at the same time. And nothing has changed between us. Like, we haven't had some big relationship discussion. Like, this wasn't about us, is the bottom line. And yet, at the same time, when I started to feel better, he started to also have that sign of life. And especially since the whole thing has been dropped for me and resolved, which, if you want to know what that was, just you're gonna have to slog through the 45-minute video I made yesterday. Since then, there were things where over the last year I was just like, is he ever going to look at me like that again? Is he ever going to talk to me in that tone of voice again? Like, am I ever going to see that old Matt? And of course, since April 24th, when I had this major breakthrough memory and some, key realizations in the moment, and things just started to change for me mentally, we've been having that stuff again, which I have to be honest with you. I don't know that I really believe that was ever going to happen again. A part of me really thought that things had changed and that they weren't going to go back. And I didn't know if the change was so bad that we would have to not be together at some point, and that troubled me. I really didn't know where this was going to end up, but there have been a couple experiences over the last week where I'm like, oh my God, it's still in there. This really is the way things work. It's hard to just be a full-on believer, especially when things are happening to you, with you. It's a lot easier to observe it in other people than it is to necessarily have faith that it's going to work out right for you, and that all you have to do is solve your own problems. You don't have to worry about other people. I failed at that a lot. And one thing that I wanted to say also about that is that, I mentioned I was spending a lot of time thinking about how our relationship had changed, thinking how Matt was different, having this like same argument with myself over and over, and be like, God, he's so different now. He's so different now. And then I'd be like, you're so different now. You're not that person that he met. You're like in your head. You are not at all. Okay, that's not true. You are significantly different in important ways than you were when you guys met. Why are you even thinking about how he's different? What was he supposed to do? Stay the same and continue to tell you how beautiful you are when you're like, I'm not beautiful, stop saying that. What was important, and again, I guess this is all just ends up being an advertisement for the 7-day mental diet. I really feel like this whole breakthrough, both with my central theme and with it, it was kind of like a major leap forward for me and Matt, was I took a break from thinking about that. I realized that thinking about that was one of the, sorry, there's light on my face, was one of the biggest sources of negativity for me. And for that 7-day mental diet, I was like, okay, I can continue thinking about this in a week. But for now, for this particular objective, I am not going to think about how Matt is a different person, and about how our relationship is different, and about how I had this thing that was perfect and then this thing had to come in and ruin it, and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to think about that this week. And it was an instantaneous improvement within days. I mean, I don't know how much of the change between me and Matt was because I simply wasn't thinking those thoughts anymore. I don't think this is one of those things that's pushed in the SP community, and I don't buy it. I do think that was playing a role, but I think a bigger part of it was that I changed significantly rapidly. I think that's what facilitated it. And I think that facilitated the change that happened almost immediately with me and Matt. But what I think facilitated that breakthrough happening was the fact that I just said, I'm not going to think about this. I have the control to not think about this. And it felt so good to just take a break from this fixation on, my relationship having changed. It just felt so nice. It's like I had forgotten that I could do that. And fear was driving that, by the way. It wasn't like I'm mad at Matt and I want to hold him in this place of judgment. It was just being afraid, just straight up fear. Like, this has changed. I know intellectually that this should change back, but what if it doesn't? What then? Without even really any response to that. It was just kind of like living in that state of fear. So I wanted to talk about that. I've been wanting to talk about that, but I couldn't do it until now. I didn't really know what to relate it to or how to even start to talk about it. But in relation to these last few videos about this, I felt like it was the right time to talk about the fact that I'm not in a magic relationship and a magic dude doesn't exist. I think I had bought into that a little bit after the first few months we were together. And the fact that, as I gained weight, nothing happened between us. And I just thought, oh, he just loves me so much. Like, I could basically turn into another person and he wouldn't care. Yeah, it always works. It's always working. And really that's comforting, I think. So all of that to say also that, if you can relate to that with your partner that you have now, if things have changed now, and you spend a lot of time thinking about that, which I know a lot of people do, there's the full circle. I have no doubt now that everything will be fine between us. Things are going really well. Things are going really well for Matt. I'm really happy. Last year I was really worried about him and how he was going to be and if everything was going to be okay and all of that. And he's doing awesome. And it's been just as rapid of a change for him as it was for me. So unsurprisingly, I guess. I'm still surprised by it though. Anyway, I don't know. I hope that helped. And I really want to dispel the notion that there is somebody that is going to come and fix it. As you get better, you will absolutely attract and be attracted to better people who, when the shit hits the fan, are going to be better. If you pick somebody from a higher state, when you hit your worst state, they're still going to be better than, whoever the person is you're trying to like revive the dead with, and this relationship that you created from a worse state. So many people are trying to revive that, and it's a ticking time bomb unless you are perfect. That's it. That's one of the issues with the SP thing is, sure, maybe you can elicit the best version of this person that you've already, had a bad relationship with or whatever, broken up with over real problems. Sure, maybe you can elicit the best version of them, but then you have to stay there forever. Good luck ever having any of your own problems again, because that person will just reflect back to you what they're capable of. So if you picked somebody who isn't capable of giving you what you want, from another state of mind that you were in previously, there's only so much you can get from that person unless they also make some great strides, which I don't think you can control. That's my opinion on that. So anyway, I hope that helped. Have a great day.